Hello?
Hello, is Suzi Quatro there, please?
Yes, speaking.
Hello, Suzi. This is Dustin Wilmus from KMSU Radio in the States.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
I'm here with my co-host, Ton.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good.
Excellent.
So I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, well, we'll get started and ask you how you got started in the music business.
Well, I mean, if you go way, way back, it was a family thing, and my father was in a band, and he played lots of instruments, and he had 5 kids, and we all played and learned lots of different instruments. I play and read piano and classical piano and drums, and then when I was 14, we started the first band, and at that point, I taught myself bass guitar.
So then what was it like kind of transitioning into, then I guess playing with the Pleasure Seekers or, trying to get into a band situation? Was that just pretty natural for you?
Yeah, we didn't really think about it much. I think it was after seeing the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, and a couple of sisters called, and we got on the phone, and we were all screaming, and wasn't that great? And I think my sister Patty said, why don't we form a band? And we just did it, and everybody kind of chose an instrument, and nobody chose the bass, so it was given to me. but luckily, one of those kind of things that's meant to be, I think, because everybody else had kind of like cheap instruments, to learn on, and I asked my father for a bass so I could play bass in the band, and he gave me a 1957 Fender Precision.
Mm.
So I think it was written in the stars that I was going to be a serious musician.
It seems like that's how all bass players wind up playing the bass. They pick the longest straw.
Yeah, you know what? But I tell you what, there's a lot of bass players who are failed guitar players, and I got to hold my hand up and say I am a bass player.
Yeah.
I never went from guitar to bass.
Well, when you guys were playing, did you find it difficult to make it in kind of a male-dominated industry? Because there weren't a lot of all-female groups.
No, there weren't hardly any. And, if you take it up to when I had my first hit, it just was unheard of for a female bass player to be running a male band like that. It just didn't happen. But way, way back when we started, I never found it difficult, I think mainly because my father, his attitude was always that it made no difference what gender you were. So I guess he just kind of passed that down to his kids. And I was serious about what I did. So if you're serious yourself, you don't notice other people not taking you serious. So it just doesn't go in your brain.
Yeah.
But I was lucky. I was lucky that way, that I had that attitude myself and that self-belief.
So what kind of ended up leading to the decision to leave the U.S. and move to the U.K.? How did that end up happening?
Yeah, these are all long stories, so I'm trying to shorten them for you. It was about 1970. Pleasure Seekers had morphed into Cradle, and we started doing all our own songs, writing a lot of material, trying to be heavier and doing festivals and stuff. And it was around that point that we started to get record companies in to see the band. And in 1 week, Elektra Records came and saw the band, and Jack Holstrom offered me a solo contract. And that same week, my brother got Mickey Most to come in to see the band, and he also offered me a solo contract. So it's obviously it was my time,
Yeah.
And Jack wanted to make me into the new Janis Joplin, and Mickey wanted to make me into the first Suzi Quatro. So my choice was to go to England and record with Mickey.
Yeah, and that's really kind of when you started to gain a lot of success there with various singles. You had the 48 Crash and Can the Can and stuff like that. Was that kind of a shock to all of a sudden be touring like with Alice Cooper or being more big time than maybe the Pleasure Seekers were?
No, not a shock. I think anybody who is successful in this business will tell you that you kind of have an instinct about it, and you're going to get there, and this is what keeps you going, that burning fire. And I had prepared for it for 9 years, and then finally I had my first hit. I was ready for it. I wasn't surprised, and it wasn't a shock. I was ready.
Okay, was it difficult touring on the road with being around a bunch of drunk guys, touring with Alice Cooper and that kind of rowdy backstage?
Well,
was that?
Don't forget I grew up in Detroit, so I kind of knew all these musicians from day one. We'd played gigs together since I've been 15, 16. I knew them all very well. I've been on the road a long, long time, and I can handle myself. I can be one of the guys, but there's a little line there that nobody crosses. I didn't have any problems. I can handle myself. My mouth is my biggest weapon. Let's put it that way. If they get out of line once, they don't get out of line again.
So
I can feel you quaking in your boots, boy.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want any trouble here.
No, you don't want any trouble there. You better believe it.
That's right. So what do you think maybe attributed to not gaining as much success in the U.S.? You just think it was?
Yeah, I get asked that question all the time. I think, and this is all hindsight, Mickey Most had a fear that if I had lots of hit singles in America, that I would leave his company and go back home and sign with an American company. So consequently, he kept putting me with a different company every time a single came out, which wasn't really good for longevity and building an artist, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, this is looking back on it now. He definitely did have that fear. But saying that, I did, of course, have a million seller with Stumblin In and the phenomenal success with Leather Tuscadero. That was, everybody kind of thinks of me as her, you know. But it's just the way that's just the way the cards fell. I did a lot of successful tours. I sold a lot of albums, but I didn't have the single success in America that I had everywhere else in the world. And hell, 50 million records. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, maybe they just weren't ready for you too, or you were kind of ahead of your time.
I think they weren't. I think, again, when I look back, I mean, I was having success over here, big time, all over Australia, Japan, everywhere but the USA. And then I started touring there in '74, back with the English band in America. And there was kind of a big cult following, and we had a couple of little, 50 in the top 50, couple of singles and all that. But then Happy Days hit, and people kind of think of that as the first thing, I think, which is kind of strange. But there you go. It's all about timing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When I played in Happy Days, I kind of very much modeled that on what I had already done in Europe. I modeled the character on that.
How did you wind up working on Happy Days? It seems like kind of an odd progression of things.
Well, I always wanted to do everything. I got asked to act many, many times, all the way through my life, actually. I like the whole entertainment circle. That's why I've been a disc jockey for 12 years now, going on 13. The story that I heard from Gary Marshall's office was that they had this part for quite a while, and they couldn't find the right person to play it because it was a strange mixture. It was somebody who was very tough, somebody who was very soft, somebody who could sing, and somebody who could act. So, hello, here I am. So they called me in Japan. I was on tour there, and my publicist, Toby Mamus, said to me, come back and audition for this great show. It's a great show. I hadn't seen it. Went back, did the audition, dressed in my leathers, of course, having no idea it was called Leather Tuscadero, and got the part and got it for 5 shows over 3 years. 15 shows over 3 years, 5 and 5 and 5. So, yeah, great. It was fabulous to have done that show. I'm very proud to have been part of such a classic sitcom.
I suppose it's almost like you're leading a dual life there with the known as acting in the U.S. and then being the musician everywhere else. It's kind of
it's really, really, really crazy. Although, like I said, we did do a lot of very successful tours. It just was we didn't have as many single successes,
Right.
And that's kind of what puts you in everybody's mind, like every day is the singles, not the albums. But we did do very well, but not that way.
So then you mentioned a radio career. You're doing shows for the BBC and that. Was that just a natural thing to kind of slide into, or?
It kind of was. I was told all the way, since I started doing my own interviews on radio, I always got said to it. It was like nonstop. Why don't you do a radio? And I'm thinking, what do I want to do a radio for? I'm a rock and roll musician. Then all of a sudden, here I am. I actually got offered a show, and I said, okay, yeah, that's fine, but I want to play what I like and say what I like, and if you can promise me that, then I'll do it. Then I found I was good at it. It felt very natural because I'm a communicator anyway. I love my music. I'm quite knowledgeable about music. And it just went on and on and on, And this year, instead of doing my weekly show, which I felt a little bit like punching a time clock, which doesn't really suit me. I told them I just wanted to do some specials this year. So I've picked out 4 artists who I really admire, who I want to do big, high-profile documentaries on. And we've done Otis Redding and Patsy Cline. And now I'm coming over to do Jim Morrison and Janis Joplin. And then next year there's a big project, which I can't talk about yet, but a big one.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, as far as, I don't know if maybe you'd call it your legacy, like what do you feel your legacy is as far as like your influence on, groups like the Runaways or Joan Jett and...
Yeah, well, she's the first one to say so. It's even in the movie.
Yeah.
She was probably my biggest fan in America, and I think it was just before the Runaways started. She used to be at all the gigs with the little jacket and the haircut, and it was cute in a way. And then eventually she formed the band. So I think if you talk to any one of them, Sherry, whoever, they would all tell you that after I'd had success, that they thought, okay, we can do this too, and it sort of, started the whole ball rolling. For the first time, a woman was taken seriously on her instrument. So that's what I gave to this industry. A woman was taken seriously on a rock and roll instrument. It's the first time it had happened.
Yeah, and then kind of around the 1990s when that whole Riot Girl movement kind of started, and then you had a lot of all-female groups. Really, that's...
Yeah, which is great. It took a long time. I was so surprised how long it did take.
Yeah.
But whatever, it doesn't matter. However long it takes to get the ball rolling, that's how it is. But if I gave anything to the industry, it was opening up that door.
You're working on a new album now, you said, right?
Well, the new album is completed.
Okay.
It was back in the studio with my original producer, Mike Chapman. I used all young musicians. There's a Rihanna cover. There's Yaya's cover. All sorts of things. Some new Mike Chapman songs. A couple new songs from me. And it's called In the Spotlight. And we're just waiting to get a release date as we speak. And it's very Suzi Quatro, although it's Suzi Quatro today. He wanted to take me back to basics, which is what we did. Yeah.
Well, now the world's ready for that stuff now. So.
I think so. I think now I'll come back and do it again now. I'll kick the door down from the other end.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Do you have any parting words for us then?
No, just thank you very much, and I hope to be back over there touring America, soon. Want to get back to my hometown.
All right.
My home country, I should say.
Yeah, sounds good.
good.
All right, well, thanks
Great.
so much.
My pleasure.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.